There we go. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having an amazing and fascinating day. I know I am. And if you're here and you can see and hear me, please leave a comment so I know I got that part right. I want to go ahead and welcome everybody to September's first Sunday Coffee Talk. I'm so glad you're here. We got three fun things we're going to dive into today. First, I'm going to give you the story of how a Yellowstone campground fail led to something brand new and completely unexpected. Sorry, because it has been accepted. We'll talk about that. And then I'm also going to take you behind the scenes a little bit for what it's really like to post videos every day or occasionally every other day while I'm traveling. And finally, I'm going to give you a sneak peek at how I'm using artificial intelligence, particularly ChatGPT, as my sidekick in everyday RV life. But before we get to that, let's start with this. First of all, I want to say today's coffee is sponsored by Barb. Thank you, Barb. Really appreciate it. And if you want to help support the channel, I just set up a Buy Me a Coffee link, and it's in the first comment in the description for the live chat. So if you'd like to grab me a coffee, you can do that. And otherwise, I'll be sure to thank you in a future video as well. And if otherwise, go ahead and grab your coffee, settle in. Let's get started. All right, here we go. So I'm calling this section Good Morning, Barb, and thank you for the coffee. I'm calling this section From Campground Chaos to Camp Hosting at Lewis Lake. Here's what happened. As you know, I've been traveling with Barb all summer long, and that's about to come to an end next week. We're both a little bit sad about that. Good morning, Dorian from Tampa, Florida. Thank you for being here. Are you a subscriber, Dorian? Because I don't recognize your name, which doesn't mean anything. You may just never have commented. Just curious. Barb and I have been traveling together since June. We're going to be splitting up, and here's part of the reason we're splitting up, actually slightly earlier than we intended to. The last two big parks on our list were Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons. And as we've been pretty lucky at doing throughout this entire summer of travel, okay, that's kind of what I thought, probably why I don't recognize your name, Dorian, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. So we made reservations at Indian Creek Campground in the north end of Yellowstone. So the very north end is Mammoth Hot Springs, and then the next one down is Indian Creek. So we made reservations there. And I'll fess up, I picked both of the sites on recreation.gov, but in my defense, I always read the full description, any notes about, like grade and stuff like that, site length, maximum vehicle length, all that stuff. And when I'm searching for sites for both of us, I put in my length at 28 feet because I'm longer than she is. So if I'll fit, somebody else will fit that's smaller. Well, the site that I reserved for myself said it would take a vehicle up to 30 feet in length, and it said it had a slight grade. The site that I recommended for Barb to reserve said that it would take a shorter vehicle. I think it only said like 25 or might have been 28. And it either said a slight or moderate grade, but in any event, we get there. This one that said it would take a 30-foot vehicle, no way. It was not possible to make the turn because on the left-hand side then the site was on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side of the road, there was a fairly big drop-off. So I wasn't going to be able to use that side of the road beyond the pavement to be able to get in. And my house has the turning radius of a house. So there was no way I was going to be able to back in around the tree that was right on the corner of the site. We're not barking. We're not barking, Kit. Cut it out. Sorry, guys. We have a fair amount of activity where we are. People are like leaving and stuff this morning. So my apologies for him. Anyway, so we realized really quickly there was no way I was going to be able to get in there. So Barb said, hey, do you want to just swap sites? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's try that. Well, the site that she was supposed to be in, I backed into that, and I had to be off level by more than 10 degrees. I mean, way more than 10 degrees, actually. It was just ridiculously bad. And I knew very quickly that this site was not going to work for me at all. And the site that Barb was in might have been able to tolerate for one night, but that would have been about it. So fortunately, the camp hosts there were very, very kind and they were able to help us get into 2 other sites for the first night that we were there, and might have been able to get us to move again to 2 other sites for subsequent nights. We had booked 4 nights, and ultimately what we ended up doing instead of staying more than the first night was just leaving, because most of the campsite was on level. It was also pretty far toward the north end of the park, so it would have been a lot of backtracking to come back there, even though Barb would have been doing the driving and I would have just been, along for the ride, so to speak. But ultimately, we decided to leave. However, when we first got there, the camp host that I was talking to about the unlevel site looked at my rig and said, "Well, you've got a lot of solar." I said, "I've got as much as I can fit on the roof, which is 800 watts. He said, "Are you interested in a camp hosting gig?" I'm like, "What?" And he said that they were looking for a camp host at the Lewis Lake campsite because apparently it's hard to get people there because there's no electricity. So I had no expectation that I was going to be talking to you about this today, but I had the conversation with the campground manager yesterday, and I've accepted the offer, and I'll start camp hosting next week at Lewis Lake in Yellowstone. So part of what I love about this is it's a short gig. I only have to do this until October 13th, and then I'm done. It means that I'm going to be giving up on my initial plans, which have been to get up into the northwest corner of Washington this summer before I head south for the winter and finish my geographical extremes tour in the Cape Flattery region. Well, that's not going to happen because I'm not heading up into the Cascades in mid-late October. That just doesn't seem like wisdom. So when I finish this, I'll just be heading south toward Arizona, and that's fine. But pretty good gig. 4 days on, 4 days off. At this moment, I will be the only camp host, but there is staffed by a ranger. And so that part's cool. And then once I leave, as I said, I'll be free after that to go ahead and do whatever I want to do, which is also cool. And the duties are relatively simple. I got to put out the tags on the posts that say that the site is reserved. I got to walk around and potentially clean up fire pits, pick up any big trash that somebody might have left behind, and that kind of thing. And then I've got most of the middle of the day off. The ranger leaves at about 5. And then when the ranger leaves, I have to go into the office and hang out there for a couple hours for late arrivals and then do a loop around the campground in the golf cart before I call it an evening. Now, I think because it is so remote and there is no cell signal, I'm going to have to potentially expect to get woken up by a knock from a camper that's got some problem and they can't resolve it because they don't have any signal to be able to resolve it. And I might have to make a call for emergency services or whatever. Not a big deal. But I'm pretty excited about the whole thing because as I understand it, well, first of all, the first thing is I thought that I probably wanted to try camp hosting when I was done being in travel mode all the time, but I don't think I'm really done being in travel mode for quite some time yet. So this is a great opportunity because it's a really short period of time. Barb and I are finishing up in the Tetons, and then we'll be in Jackson Hole for a day or two. And then from Jackson Hole, I'm going to turn around and go right back up to Yellowstone. And she's going to head west to her home base where her daughter lives in Washington before we'll meet up again in Quartzsite later in the season for the holidays with a bunch of other friends. But this is a short gig. So if it turns out that I don't like camp hosting at all, because this is about the easiest camp host gig you can get, no bathrooms, 4 days on, 4 days off, which means that if I wanted to leave the park and go someplace else and go camp for a few days, I could do that. I probably won't. I think I'm going to use the time to try and get caught up on videos and stuff like that, do some planning for the following season, all of those kinds of things, and take advantage of the opportunity to sit still for a while, which is not something that I've done this year at all. So I'm kind of excited about that. But because this is a national park site, if I've got in there and done well, and I can't imagine I wouldn't, quite frankly, then it means that it'll be much easier to get accepted for other camp hosting gigs in national parks, which most people say are typically better than camp hosting gigs in state parks. I don't have any experience to know that, just from people that I've talked to. But again, it's a good foot in the door. It's an opportunity to do a short gig rather than committing to a season and then getting in and finding out, oh yeah, this is really not for me. I can suck anything up for about 4 or 5 weeks. I can do any of that. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm really curious, have you had a travel fail that turned into a brand new opportunity that you didn't see coming? Leave a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are about that. So that's pretty much what I have to say about Campground Chaos turning into campground hosting. Let me enjoy some of this coffee. Sorry about the slurping. It's still really hot. All right, so behind the scenes, I want to talk a little bit about the YouTube grind. And let me start off by being very clear about the fact that this is not a complaint in any way, shape, or form, because it's something that I have put upon myself. But I have been posting pretty much a long form video every single day while we've been traveling. And there's been a few days that I've missed, but not too many. And like I didn't publish last night actually. And in part I thought, well, I'm doing the live all day, so I'm not terribly at it. The large part of the reason that I've been doing it in real time, in terms of when my video out. And so I've been trying to publish so that I can get closer to real time. Hey, Lawrence, nice to see you here. Thanks for showing up. And I guess as a reminder, if you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up. It definitely helps the video get pushed out to more people, even after we're done with the live. So I've been trying to publish every day just so I can get closer to real time, because right now, the video that'll come out next will be filmed on July 9th. I don't want to be that far behind. That's coming up on 2 months again. Now, as Barb and I have moved forward, we've had more opportunities to kind of sit still for a few days at a time. So it's not like every day we explored something and then I filmed it and then I have to edit that and then I have to publish it. Thank heaven. There will be some breaks in that. So during this time that I'll be camp hosting, I think by mid-October, I should be within a week or two of real time. Typically, I'm never in exactly real time, and most YouTubers aren't, for a number of reasons. One of them for me as a solo traveler, especially female, is safety. As much as I love all the interactions with you guys, and by the way, if you're ever out and about and you see me out and about, please come say hello. But if you ever see me in camp, please don't. I mean, if I'm outside and walking around or whatever, that's fine. But safety is kind of a big issue. So I don't want to be in a position where I have to be concerned about my safety. And if I told you, for example, now I've told you I'm going to be at Lewis Lake starting next week. There's a ranger there. I can't really hide it anyway. And unless you've got a reservation, it's unlikely you're going to be able to get inside. So not that big a deal. Dorian says, sounds like fun. Good experiences for you. Do you ever go to the East Coast? Also, I just bought a Mini Winnie. Do you think it will be okay on the mountain highways? I think the bigger issue with your Mini Winnie is going to be what you're towing it with, Dorian. And yes, I've been on the East Coast a couple of times. In fact, I grew up on the East Coast and then moved to California in 1990 and hit the road full time in 2021. So I feel more like a West Coaster at this point. But last year, I started in the middle of Kansas, went all the way up to the northeast corner of Maine, and then all the way south to Key West, and then came back up along the Gulf Coast into Texas and then back into Arizona last winter because the weather turned sideways on me. Oh, and Angela's here. Good morning, sweetheart. So sorry I'm late. I was trying to find worms for the chickens and was not paying attention to the bell. It does sound great on the travels, and love if you would come back toward us here in North Carolina. You never know, Angela. I might be back that way in another year or so. Probably not next year, probably the year after, but I haven't firmed up plans for next year yet either, so we'll see. But the whole thing about doing a video every day is not just a matter of filming, and it's not just a matter of editing. Really, the thing that is the most difficult in many ways is getting it uploaded, having enough signal to be able to do that, scheduling it for publication. And before you can do that, I have to go through a whole bunch of different things to make sure that I've given it correct keywords so it'll get exposed, and I've written the description and so on and so forth. And, all of those things and all of that stuff takes a really long time. So my goal, when I started this year, my goal was to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. And what really matters even more than the number of subscribers is the number of raw views that I get, the number of likes and comments, how much engagement a video gets. And I can really see that picking up as the number of subscribers is growing, which is cool. And I really appreciate that. I kind of got caught into the thing that happens with so many YouTubers. They get hung up on subscribers. That, if 5,000 people subscribe but nobody watches, that's not good for anybody. I am much more excited about having an engaged audience and doing the things that I can to support you guys as my viewers that helps you to meet my purpose, because my purpose is to inspire you to do whatever it is that you truly want to do, whether it's RVing or something else, doesn't matter, but to inspire you to be able to do that. And in order to do that, we need to be engaged. And I can see the engagement growing significantly. So that part's really cool. Barb says, I think your gig is great. I know, I do too. And by the way, Barb, we might be leaving a day earlier from here than I thought because I just threw away most of my winter clothes. We got to do some shopping before I get on my way. Angela says, that's good. Maybe by then I'll have health to travel with you and Barb. If you two and Little Kit allow me to. Speaking of Little Kit, where is he? There he is. Do you want to say hi to the people? Do you want to say hi to the people? He says, no, not really. I'm trying to nap here, Mom, and you're bothering me. Well, and Barb says, hi, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. Angela replies, I'm hoping you get way more than 5,000. You're so great in bringing me along. You do inspiring things for us. Barb with 3 thumbs up. All right. I mean, and I truly appreciate that, guys. That's what this is really all about. Because otherwise, it's like I'm here talking to myself. And I never feel that way. I always feel like I'm here talking to you. And you. And you. All y'all. All y'all. So that's how you can tell I'm from the East Coast originally. Because I know that the plural of you all, y'all, is all y'all. So how about that? So I'm curious, do you prefer the shorter videos or the longer videos? Which do you guys like better? And do you like the travel videos better? Do you like the how-tos, the tips and tricks? How do you feel about the cooking videos? And I'll be honest about the cooking videos. Sometimes I do cooking videos just because it's easier for me to do that than write something down. And then I can go back and watch them. I do that occasionally. I don't have to do it very often because for the most part, I cook just kind of like by whatever feels good in the moment. Angela says, oh, give our sweetheart lots of love. And yes, let the baby sleep. Yeah, well, I can't do both of those at the same time. He'll get lots of love later. How about that? So one of the ways that I have been able to make, sorry, I'm looking at people driving by. One of the ways I have been able to make this all come together a little bit better is by employing AI whenever possible. Yeah, you can see that vehicle behind me right there. What you can't see super clearly, and I'm going to share this. This was really funny, actually. We left. Okay, so after our failed Indian Creek campground, we ended up spending the next night at a paid concessionaire site at Headwaters Campground at Flag Ranch. Let me tell you, we got in there. Well, we had picked a different Forest Service location, and it was a campground. And we turned down the road to the campground, and the sign on the post, once we'd turned in, and I couldn't back up at that point. Sign on the post said full, and I said to Barb over the walkie-talkie, I said, well, let's just go take a look. Maybe we'll get lucky. So we're driving down this dirt forest road, and there are a couple of pullouts on the left-hand side, but they're all clearly marked no camping and no something else. I don't remember what the other thing was. So we kept going. And then, I don't know, we were probably 3/4 of a mile in. We come to a bridge. Now, I knew that there was a bridge that was theoretically kind of janky to get into this campground. And when I had looked at it, looked at the reviews and stuff online to begin with, it had said, no weight limit is posted. So I'm like, all right, well, if they're not posting a weight limit, it's probably okay. Well, we got to the bridge and the bridge says weight limit 5 tons. Nope, nope, nope. I weigh about 14,000 pounds. And in fact, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh myself, my rig. I weigh myself pretty frequently, and I'm not happy about that, but that's a whole different story. I'm going to weigh my rig relatively soon and see what I really am, and if I need to get rid of some stuff or if I'm really okay. I think I'm okay. Anyway, I look at this, it says, weight limit 5,000 tons, and Barb's behind me, and I said, I'm going to need you to back up a little bit so I can back up so I can turn around because I'm not crossing this bridge. And so we came back out of there, and there had been a big gravel parking lot that looked like it was fishing access by the river that we had passed not long before we turned down this dirt road. I'm thinking, well, maybe we can just stay there for the night. It won't be the worst thing ever. But as soon as we pulled into it, I saw the little tiny signs that said no camping. All right. So then we're casting around and looking for an alternative because it's now very late in the afternoon. We've been in Yellowstone all day. I did a couple of hikes. I was tired. I was just ready to be done. And I'm sure Barb felt the same way. So the closest thing, which was like half a mile away, was the Headwaters campground at Flag Ranch. So I called him and I talked to the front desk at the lodge, and he called the campground. They had one reserved tent site that we could share. He said he thought that he was pretty sure we'd both be able to fit in there. And so he gave me directions to be able to go see that site so that we could go look at it and make sure it was going to work out okay. And then he said, come over and see me at the lodge once you've done that to pay for it. Okay, fine. So it was a very complicated campground to find our way into, especially since I missed the first main turn in and kind of went in the back way and then up and down, whatever. It was kind of a mess. And so we finally find the site. And this is a tent site, guys. So basically it was a big open patch of grass that was sort of kind of not terribly on level. It was better than our sites at Indian Creek had been, let me tell you that. And so basically I backed my rig in as far as I could go, and then Barb parked across the front of me in a T-shape, essentially. And then we took her rig over to the lodge and went and paid. And so that's where we spent the night before last. Let me catch up on comments here for a moment. So Angela says, give our sweetheart lots of love, and yes, love. Says, long ones for me, all them, just the ones you want to do for us. I love you talking to me. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Dorian says, did you add the solar to your rig or did it come with solar? I definitely need to upgrade. So solar is a huge, big discussion. I'm going to give you the basic thoughts about that, Dorian. And then I'll recommend go Google for my video, the Ultimate RV Solar Cup. It's actually been almost 2 years. It was October 1st that I put this system into this rig. Here's my take. An RV that comes solar ready is better than one that comes with solar. Because if it comes with solar, and if it doesn't come solar ready, that's okay too. It's not that big a deal because a good solar installer knows what they're doing. If it comes solar ready, then you can add whatever equipment you want to, and all you gotta do is wire it in, which makes it a little bit more simple. If it comes with some solar on it, it's probably not enough. It's like the minimum amount that they can put on to say solar. So for example, my whole deal is I want to live just like I live in a regular house that I can plug in whenever I want to, whenever I want to. That's not 100% true, but it's mostly true. I use an air fryer. I use an Instant Pot. I use electricity just like I'm in a house for the most part. Now, if we have multiple cloudy days or that kind of thing, then I tend to be a little bit more conservative. I also have a generator, so I've got that for backup if I ever get too low. I'm trying to remember, Barb and I were camped someplace. Oh, we were over at called East Bank Campground in Montana, and we ended up staying there for over a week. I think that's the right place. And a lot of the time that we were there, it was very, like 2.5 days, it was very overcast, pouring down rain. There was no sun. I really wasn't getting any solar. And I let my batteries just go down and down and down, deciding I was going to wait until they got down to like 25% before I really felt like I had to turn on the generator and start getting some power back in. But what I learned from that experiment, they only got down to about, I think 40 or 39% was the lowest they got. And then we had a couple of days of sun while we were still there. It took 2.5 days, 2.5 days of really bad weather, and then 2.5 days to get them back up to 100%. And I could have done it by running the generator if I really wanted to. So having a backup generator is always a really good idea. But how much solar should you get? The real answer is as much as you can possibly fit on your rooftop, assuming you're doing rooftop solar. And the reason for that is the solar itself is the cheapest part of the whole setup. So get as much of it as you can, because even if you've got more solar than you can handle battery capacity, that's a bonus, especially in the wintertime when the sun's lower in the sky and it's harder to get a maximum amount during the day. But it's not just solar, because in order to have the whole system work effectively, you need a reasonable amount of storage. And I've got a reasonable amount of storage. I got 560 amp hours of lithium battery. You need a way to be able to recharge the batteries, which can be solar, but it can also be generator. It can also be driving. My big battery bank only recharges from solar or from generator. I do not have a DC to DC charger for it to recharge when I'm driving. However, I have an auxiliary system, which you're going to find out a whole lot more about in an upcoming video, because I've had a whole lot of electrical issues this summer. And my auxiliary system is now also lithium, and there's a 100 amp hour lithium battery. And that one does recharge while I'm driving. So that's kind of cool. So hopefully that helps a little bit, Dorian. And check out the Ultimate Solar video, and then give me some specific questions, and I'll be happy to try and address them to the best of my ability. Angela says, I so love you doing the lives. It's so interesting and brings great cheer to my day, sweetheart. Well, thank you very much. And good morning to you, Judy from Central California. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you showing up. Now back to I was getting ready to talk to you a little bit about an AI sneak peek. I got a couple of things coming up that I'm going to be sharing with you guys in some detail. You're welcome, Dorian. I hope that was helpful in some way. I'm going to be talking to you in some detail about how to use AI in your life to do things that you may never have thought of. And I'm going to tell you what one of the big things is that I've been doing. So I've been using AI. Sorry, I don't know why I'm a little itchy this morning. Might be some pollen out here that I'm not used to, which is one of the issues about traveling all the time. My allergies are pretty much nonstop now because I'm allergic. Every time I go someplace new, which is pretty frequently, I don't ever really have a chance to get used to the allergen. So, oh well. I'm going to say it again. Thank you for this cup of coffee, Barb. Anybody wants to buy me another one, if you scroll back up to the top of the chat, there is an opportunity to buy me a coffee. Pretty simple to do. And one of the things that I like about that, by the way, versus YouTube super chats and that kind of thing, first of all, you can set whatever amount you want to. You're not constricted to whatever they tell you. I mean, they're going to give you a suggestion, $10, whatever. But if you want to do $1, you can just put $1 in, which I think is very cool. And the other thing is, buy me a coffee only takes 5% of what you're giving me. YouTube takes 30%. And if you want to give me a donation like that, if you want to help to fuel our travels, then I think the majority of what you're spending to do that should really go to that purpose rather than to the platform. Make sense? So I think it's pretty likely that I'm going to be potentially closing YouTube memberships and transferring to another platform so that you guys can get the greatest bang for the buck, including my ability to be able to interact with you more directly that way. That's a bit off in the future because I got so many other things going on right now. I don't have time to even think about that yet, but I want to make the best experience that I can for you guys. So AI, when it comes to trip planning, and we've had to do a lot of trip planning this summer because we've had a big, long list of all the stuff that we wanted to see. So a couple of upcoming videos that you'll be seeing eventually. We'll do a recap of the entire summer travels, Barb and I will sit down together and have a conversation about that. She has reluctantly agreed to it. Um, I'll also do a recap of all of the parks that we've seen and experiences that we've had and stuff that we would really recommend that you do. And I'm also going to do a cost recap of what this has actually cost us to travel for these 3 months. So I think all three of those things will be pretty interesting for different reasons and for different people. So we'll see how that goes. But the trip planning aspect of it, we started off with a list of big rocks. We want to go to this park and this park and this park and this park. But there's a lot of stuff in between there. There are things like, are there any like really cool quirky stops that we want to do along the way? Because that's one of my favorite things. I like to find off the beaten path kind of stuff to do. And, are there other parks that we didn't think about? And we found a bunch of those, and a couple of them just by seeing signs on the road, a couple of them by looking at the NPS website and app to be able to add those things in as well. So we've done a lot over the course of these 3 months. And that's just figuring out what to see. Beyond what to see, there's also where are we going to sleep? How long are we going to stay there for? Where are we going to get food? Groceries. Where are we going to fuel up? Where are we going to get water? Where are we going to dump tanks? Where are we going to get propane? It's a lot of stuff. There really is a lot of stuff. Because in addition to just traveling and being on vacation, which is how we have both characterized this 3-month period, we're still living RV life. And one of the things that becomes pretty clear to me is people that go from RV park or RV resort from one to another, they don't have to think about a lot of that stuff. Most RV resorts will have propane on site. It's ridiculously expensive, but they've got it. Many times you'll have full hookups with water and sewer and electricity right at your site, so you don't have to think about any of that. So it makes it a whole lot easier, but in my opinion, it makes it a whole lot less fun. I don't want to be in an RV park cheek by jowl with somebody else. And I know this is a little bit disjointed now, but I want to back up because I told you about being at Flag Ranch night before last. And then we had scouted out the place where we ended up today. And, well, not exactly the place where we had ended up today. Another friend of mine, Donna, at Shalom on the Roam on YouTube. Fun channel. Check her out if you haven't already. I knew she had been in this area before, so we were talking one day a couple of weeks ago. I said, hey, do you have any good boondocking spots near the Tetons? And she sent me to a link to a place, to coordinates to a place not too far from where we ended up. And in fact, we started up that road, and first of all, we came off the main road, and the road we came off was paved. I'm like, wow, this is great, not expected, and it stayed paved for a fair amount of time. And then it turned into dirt. Dirt road was still pretty good. We're going up the side of the mountain, up the front of the mountain, actually, I guess, because it wasn't too steep on each side yet. And we're going up this mountain, and we come to a Y in the road, and I'm looking, the right-hand Y is toward the coordinates that she had given me, but the road looked a lot worse than the road on the left. That was not the coordinates that she had given to me, but the Forest Service had a sign up that said that there were campsites in both directions. So I got on the walkie-talkie and I said to Barb, I'm thinking, let's go left. The road looks better than the one to the right. And we came up around a corner a ways up, and there was a very steep drop off. And if you don't know before, you know by now that I'm afraid of heights. I came around that corner and I basically froze. So I kind of just stopped for a minute. And I said to Barb, I said, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can go on. But I got out and I walked up the road quite a ways to see what was going to happen. And essentially, that one corner that I froze on looked like it was the worst of it for quite a while. So I sucked it up, got back in, and continued on up the road. And we're driving and driving. And finally, we came to another campsite area, and I looked to the right, and there was one guy parked there, and he had blocked the road in, and it was a fairly steep and not very good road getting in there. And I looked up to the left, and I could see a whole bunch of rigs. So once again, I got out, and I walked up to see, first of all, if there was going to be enough room for me to be able to turn around if that's what I needed to do, and whether or not it looked like there was going to be space for us. Well, I walked up, and I saw this beautiful area that had one rig in it and plenty of room for two more, if you were friends. And I looked at the rig, and I realized it's a YouTuber that I've met several times previously, and also follow. The channel is Irene Iron Travels. So check that out too, because Aaron and Chris are super nice people. And basically, I came in and apologized, and I said, it's Forest Service land, and I really think I'm going to encroach on you. And so we did. And fortunately, they've also been very gracious about it, because here's the truth, guys. It's public land. You can't tell somebody they can't park there. I mean, they can come up and park right next to you if they want to. I mean, right next to you. And that's kind of sort of what I did. I mean, I'm angled in such a way that I can't see their windows into their windows. They can't see into mine. And they're going to leave on Monday. And I'm going to have to move to let them out at this point. But yeah, so check out their channel if you haven't already. Aaron and Chris are great people. They do some pretty interesting videos as well. Angela says, I cannot wait on the AI in your travels on cost. That gives me ideas of what I can do. And she also says, I liked video Deborah took at the rocks. Yes, that's a lot of things we need to, yeah, a lot of things we need to know before RV camping. Yeah, there are. And it depends on what style you do it in. I mean, boondocking, a lot of people are afraid to go boondocking because they think it's difficult. I think it's actually in many ways much easier, certainly from the perspective of being around people, than being in an RV park or a resort. And I am not above sleeping in a parking lot if that's what I need to do. Our fallback position, if this hadn't worked out last night, was going to be the Albertsons parking lot in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. But let's talk about AI. So one of the things that I have been doing over the past couple of weeks, because I've used AI for a whole lot of things for years now, before the vast majority of the public knew that AI was a thing, I've started using it for trip planning. And what is so cool about this is that I have been able to tell ChatGPT, that's the primary AI that I use, and because we have developed such a relationship, yeah, well, you can't use it as a navigator per se, but you can use it for finding those places of where to stop and where to stay and where to buy gas and how far to go and what you can do in the area that you stopped. Zigzag 11. Yes, you could do all of those things. And thank you for being here. I'll give the reminder again, if you haven't already, please do give us a thumbs up so we can get this out to more people when the live is done as well. So what's really cool is, in addition to just being able to say, find me places along the way, I can say to ChatGPT, and my ChatGPT has a name. His name is Finn. Little sense of adventure, short, snappy. Yeah, we get along really well. We have a whole relationship at this point, and we'll talk more about that as we get further down the road. But just as a short example, my basic instruction to Finn for all travel planning is, I want you to check Atlas Obscura and roadside attractions for potential quirky stops along the way, or other sites of historic interest, because I'm really interested in that kind of stuff. Make sure that we're going to hit any national park sites that I haven't seen before. And he knows what most of those are because they get done in videos, and he helps me write video descriptions. I know I'm saying he, it's actually it. I get it. I get that Finn is not a real person. Trust me, I'm not off the rails here. But yeah, just being able to do all those things. And so now, here's the other thing. Just a really quick one. I'm going to only give you a couple of these because it's not quite as simple as I'm making it sound. You got to work really hard to be able to build the prompts. That's the hardest part. But he knows, for example, that on average, I dump every 2 to 3 weeks, dump my black tank every 2 to 3 weeks. On average, I get water about every, I can do it every 2 weeks. We've been doing it about every 7, 8 days, 9 days, whatever it's been. Hey, be on the road. Good to see you here. Thank you. Thanks for showing up. And so, and what else? Oh, and he knows what my fuel economy is. So in planning routes, he can tell me when I need to get fuel. And unlike a lot of the route planning stuff like Trip Wizard Pro, RV Life Trip Wizard, I can tell GPT that I want to fuel up at approximately half a tank. I never want to be below a quarter of a tank when I'm going to camp, because if I need to run my generator, it runs off of my fuel tank. And once I hit a quarter tank, the generator shuts off so that I will never get stranded any place and I can drive out of there. So I generally try and hit camps, especially if I'm going to be there for a little while, with a pretty full tank of gas so that I can run the generator if I need to. But being able to put all these parameters in, all of the things that are really important to me, including things like, if it comes to parking lots, Walmart is very low on my list of parking lots to sleep in. My first choice in a parking lot is probably going to be Sam's Club. And so I've got all of my parking lot choices listed. And then Finn, well, thank you for joining, Dorian. I really appreciate that. That is so awesome. If you're not noticing it in the chat, Dorian just joined as a new member. Super nice. And if it's something that you want to do, you can do it for as little as 99 cents a month. So, there you go. Angela says the AI sounds like a lot of help. I sure need one's help. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not going to promise this, but my inclination at this point is that I'm going to put together an entire video course on how to use AI specifically to be able to generate travel plans that actually work for you, not for me. I mean, I've generated what works for me, and it'll be a little while before it comes out. I've only been doing this to this depth for a few weeks, and we're still ironing out a few of the bugs. But what's really cool is, for example, last week, we needed to do laundry. And so Finn had included the laundry stop for us. Well, at the end of the day, I sat down and I got back into ChatGPT and I said, okay, so let's recap how today went. And the laundromat that he sent us to was one of the most expensive we've ever been to. And I gave him that information and I said, are you able to also scrape for pricing on laundromats when you're suggesting a laundromat to us? And of course he can. So will he be able to do that every single time for every single laundromat? No, but he now has the instruction that, if the only laundromat available has a washing machine that's $650, well, if I need to wash clothes, that's what I'm going to use. But if there are two in the same area and one's $650 and one's $350 and they have relatively the same reviews, I'm probably going to go to the cheap one because I like to be as cheap as I possibly can. So pretty cool how detailed you can get up front and not have to tell the same thing over and over again. Zigzag 11 says, can AI be used as you are rolling, or do you have to only use it stationary before you hit the road? I guess that depends on how many things you can multitask while you're driving. What I would say for sure is that if something's not going as I planned, let's say, for example, I got stuck in some horrendous traffic jam because there was a big accident or something, and now my schedule has completely blown up. If I'm sitting still in traffic, because I won't do it while I'm driving, but if I'm sitting still in traffic, I can call it back up on my phone and say, hey, this is where I am right now at this time, and we're not going to be able to complete the day because of this long delay. What can we do instead? I want an alternate place to stay. I don't want to pass by things that we were otherwise looking, and have him reroute and retime based on that. So something like that might cause a delay, or it might just be, hey, I'm not feeling great today. I want to stop for the day now. Help me find a place to stay. Based on my parameters, it'll help me find a place to stay. Does that help, Zigzag? Does that make sense? I mean, generally, I try and have stuff set up before I hit the road for a day or two, depending on how many travel days we're going to have in a row, that kind of thing. Yeah, it is super cool. It is super cool. And that's why, I mean, I'm going to put together a video course, and it won't be free. I'll do some stuff that is free, of course, that'll be kind of basic. But to be able to get to this depth, and here's the thing, right? I've been using RV Life Trip Wizard Pro, I think is what it's actually called, for years. And it's pretty good because it keeps everything in one kind of list for a trip. But for example, this trip that Barb and I have been on all summer, I've actually divided it up into 9 different parts, section by section, because otherwise it gets way too big. Well, hello, Mel. Thank you for joining another new member. That's so exciting. I'm really pleased. And thank you for being here. And I'm curious, if you guys are willing to share, Dorian and Mel, would you mind telling me what it was that made you decide to join? I'm just really curious about that kind of stuff. what it is that, that's really working for you. And we will be wrapping this up in just a few minutes because I try and keep my lives 30 to 45 minutes. We've just hit 45. So we're going to wrap this up in just a couple of minutes because I don't want to be one of those people that runs a live for 2 hours. I won't watch them personally. I don't have that much time to spend on something like that. So yeah, being able to get to this depth is really, really cool, but it takes a lot of steps to get there. Whereas with RV Life Trip Wizard, I'm doing all of these steps every single time I'm planning a trip. I'm using multiple different apps to be able to figure that out. And it takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of time. Plus, you still have to scout the boondocking sites on a satellite map to make sure that you're not going up the side of a mountain that you're not willing to go up, which, sometimes even if you've scouted, you end up doing that. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm pretty excited about giving up RV Life Trip Wizard, which I'm spending $65 a year for. Oh, that's cool. Thank you, Melody. Melody says she joined specifically for information and AI. I hope you won't be disappointed because a lot of what I do and will be doing for the next month or so that you're seeing is going to be primarily travel videos because, as I said at the beginning of this, I'm trying to get closer to real time in my travel videos. But we're going to be getting more and more AI sprinkled in as we go through. ML says, I'm 74 wanting to solo. I'd say go for it. What kind of rig do you have, Mel? Or do you have one yet? Or are you still going to be shopping? Just curious. So yeah, so the whole AI thing is really cool. Most of what I do with AI for travel, you can do on the free plan. And as I put the course together, I'll let you know what you can do on the free plan and what you would need to have the plus plan for. The plus plan is $20 a month, but here's the other thing. If you think you're not going to be traveling full time and making plans every month, what's really cool about the plus plan is that you can pay for a month and then you can skip. You don't have to pay for it ever again if you don't want to. So if you know, for example, that you're getting ready to go out on a trip that you're going to be out for 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever, you can do all your planning in the month that you're paying for it. And you can still use all of those plans and make adjustments even if you're not paying for it. So if you're paying $20 to do a big trip plan versus paying $65 to have it for the year, to me, it still makes it, first of all, cheaper and way, way better as far as I'm concerned. Mel says she's got a minivan and is considering a Class B. Mel, we have a friend named Lisa who's also a channel member, and she lived in a minivan, I think, for 14 months with 2 cats. She's got a truck and a travel trailer now, but she'd be a really good resource to talk to about some of that stuff. And I considered a Class B originally. I ultimately went away from it because I'm a little bit claustrophobic. And I went to an RV show and I got into every Class B I could get into that was pre-built. And I spent 15 minutes to half an hour in each layout and floor plan, imagining and visualizing what it would be like for me to function in that space. And even the ones that I thought I might be able to function in, then I started thinking about what it would be like to be stuck in there if it was raining 4 days in a row, and I decided I was better off in a Class C. That was me. But I'm always happy to answer any questions and certainly offer opinions, which may or may not be factual because they are opinions, about anything that might be helpful. Dorian says, I've been following you a while, and I think when you broke your foot and continued with camping in a positive way was just inspirational for me. Also, your traveling, cooking, and kit. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, the whole broken foot fiasco, which I'm still not 100%. So for those of you that don't know, I was at a small meetup, a meetup for small YouTube channels in Ironwood National Forest at the beginning of February. I had just arrived. I had just parked. I went to step out of my RV. I stepped into a hole, fell down, road rashed my entire right leg. Really bad. I've got scars now, actually. And broke my left foot and tore ligaments and sprained ankles and stuff like that. So that was a mess. And then I had talked to a friend of ours, Cheryl, Pup Camper 58 on YouTube, and said I was planning. I went to the hospital. I was in a boot. I had crutches, all of that stuff. There's the handsome boy. That's right. Look at the people. Say hi. Kit, say hi to your friends. I know they're in there. They're in there, not out there. We'll go see that friend shortly. So crutches and the whole bit. And I called my friend Cheryl, who was in Quartzsite with a bunch of my other friends. And I said, I'm thinking about heading your way. I'm going to leave on Tuesday, but I'm concerned I really won't be able to drive, even though it was my left foot. So if I get someplace and feel like I'm stuck, would you bring Barb, who was also camped there, to where I am so that she can drive my rig back for me? Because she's the only other one of our friends that has a Class C. As it turns out, our friend Lisa that I just told you about had an appointment in Tucson on Monday. And so she brought Barb over, came to where I was camped, and Barb spent the night in my rig. And then on Tuesday, we headed back to Quartzsite, ran all my errands, and then everybody just took care of me for the next 6.5, 7 weeks until I was able to leave. So that was pretty special. But still not 100%. This is one of the things that I've learned at my age. I hate to say this, because I don't feel old at all. I really don't feel old until things like this happen. And I will show, I'm 68, which I don't think is old. But at my age, I am discovering just how much longer it takes to heal from things than it did when I was 28, 38, 48, even 58. The older I get, the longer it takes to heal. I am now back to the point. I'm up to hiking about 2 miles now, which is good because it's taken a while to get there. I still have some pain in my right ankle, which I think I tore some ligaments in, but nobody ever looked at it because the left side was so bad. But yeah, I'm making progress little by slowly. Mel says, I've brought way too much fridge, freezer, got to go to toilet hell. Bed, wish I'd do a few trips. I've done several 4 to 5 day trips in the van and then 2 to 3 days at a motel to recharge. Interesting. Okay, that's another way to do it. Absolutely. I'm sorry, I got to lean over really far so I can actually read the comments. And Barb says, I'll see you all down the road. Safe travels for all of you. FYI, I am 72 years old and I've been doing this 4+ years. Looking forward to seeing my grandkids later this month and saying goodbye to me. She's looking forward to saying goodbye to me too. Just saying. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We've both already said it's going to be kind of sad to split up again, but we'll get together down in Quartzsite. And guys, I think that's going to be it. We are over time for today, and I do not want to be disrespectful of your time. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for Dorian and Mel for joining the channel. And we will see you next Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. Kid's got to talk to somebody outside. We'll see you soon. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.